Have you ever left your therapist's office after months, even years of sessions, walking out again and having this thought like, why am I still stuck in these same patterns? Like, I've been talking about this for a long time, but nothing is changing. Why is that? Or on the other hand, maybe you've considered hiring a life coach. You see the ads, you see the online courses, you see the inspirational quotes, but you have this little voice in your head that whispers, do they actually know what they're doing? Or am I about to waste thousands of dollars on some online course, being offered to me by somebody who's really good at social media marketing, but maybe doesn't actually have the qualifications to speak into my life in a responsible way. My friends, today I'm pulling back the curtain on a dirty little secret in my industry that might just be costing you a ton of time, money, and a huge opportunity cost, quite frankly, that is an obstacle keeping you from the transformation and the positive change that you want and that you deserve. What I am going to tell you today may be potentially a little bit upsetting, and we need to start talking about this situation more openly, I think, as a society, as a culture, than we have been. So what we need to talk about is the not so awesome reality that there is a gap between why people come to therapy and coaching and what they actually get out of this experience. There is a sometimes shocking difference between what people like you are seeking when they show up wanting change, wanting transformation, and what most professionals in this day and age are actually equipped to deliver. So by the end of this episode, you will understand exactly why that investment in therapy or coaching might not be paying off. And we will also be talking about a way of handling this differently that actually does create lasting change and meets the needs that you are seeking when you reach out for help and support. And because I want you to learn how to access this work and have it be genuinely trustworthy and reliable for you. This is what I hope will be an episode that just provides you with a ton of information and insight and resources for no matter what you are working on in your life, you will be able to actually get where you want to go. I'm going to assume that if you're listening to this podcast, if you're tuning into me every week, it is because you are the kind of person who wants to make positive changes in your life. You are a growth-minded individual who is in a place in your life where you hope that it can be better in some way. You would like to feel better. You would like to have a better relationship. You would like to feel like you are living in a way that is more congruent with not just who you are, but who you want to be. Maybe you're trying to figure out your career. And when I say career, that is a big term, meaning like, what is your mission in this life, right? Like, what were you put here to do? And that doesn't necessarily need to be tied to an occupation, but it does need to be tied to like, what are you here for? What are you going to be doing with this, your time in this world? And so that is why people listen to this podcast, and that is why people come and talk to me and other therapists in my practice, Growing Self. And I will also say that people who show up to my practice, Growing Self, and who want to do air quote therapy with me or coaching with me, it is not because they were diagnosed with a serious mental health condition. They do not have major depressive disorder or bipolar disorder or a post-traumatic stress disorder. It is because they're seeking improvement in some parts of their lives. And there are two different things going on in the field of therapy, psychotherapy. And, one of the things I'm so happy about is that it seems like probably in the last 5 or so years, people are generally more receptive to the idea of going to therapy or working on themselves than it seems like they were in the past. There isn't the same stigma around it. However, now, team, we have a new problem because there is a lack of clarity around what therapy is or what it means. So allow me just for a moment. There is clinical mental health treatment, psychotherapy, behavioral health care, because this is really important. Mental illnesses are so real. And unless you have high quality behavioral health care that is evidence-based and delivered by a legitimate, highly qualified mental health professional that knows what they're doing, you are not going to have positive outcomes and things don't get better by themselves. So, if you have been diagnosed with something like bipolar disorder 1 or 2, post-traumatic stress disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, and there's a whole constellation of things, substance use disorders. I mean, you guys, these are real deals. And there are very high quality structured systems that exist for the purpose of reducing the symptoms that are associated with these mental health conditions. And this is so incredibly important. And I will also tell you that amazing therapists devote years and years and years of their lives to mastering this craft, specialized education, training, and they do such a good job. And so I just want to say all of this out loud because these people are heroes. We need them. You might need them. And if you are dealing with something that requires treatment, that's what you need. And that is what you deserve. And it works. And it makes sense. That is one type of psychotherapy. But we'll call it psychotherapy. Okay. Now, it is also true that a lot of people, especially more recently, are showing up for therapy that are not dealing with the things that we've just talked about. They are showing up because they would like to figure themselves out. They would like to have a better relationship with their partner. They have an overbearing mother with whom they would like to learn how to set boundaries. They are in a transitional phase in their life and trying to figure out who they are now and what they're doing, or maybe they're going through a transition, a job loss, pregnancy loss, something of that nature, dealing with something hard. And I do think there is also a separate space and place and validity to what I think of as grief counseling. If you've lost a loved one, that you need time and space to process this. And it really makes sense to have a container in which to just be able to work through that in an emotionally safe relationship. That is fantastic. However, it is also true that a lot of people are showing up in therapy with a desire to solve a problem in their lives. They are essentially hiring a therapist in the hope that that person will help them create outcomes. I am going to talk to you for 10, 12, 16 sessions. And at the end of that, I'm going to have a better relationship. I'm going to feel like I'm living the life that I want. I'm going to feel more confident. Maybe I will, have made a pivot in my career, whatever it is. But here's the thing that is so deeply problematic is that many times when therapists are not conducting evidence-based mental health treatment, they are doing insight-oriented talk therapy that doesn't really oftentimes lead to specific outcomes. And this is fairly messed up. And so, again, I think that therapists who are doing this are well-meaning. They are not trying to harm anyone. They are really following by the book, schools of thought around humanistic psychology or psychodynamic orientations that say that there's a lot of value in just coming in and talking about your thoughts and feelings and peeling the onion, developing self-awareness, developing insight, which is incredibly important, right? I mean, we can all value from understanding why we are the way that we are and how did we get here? And that's valuable, certainly. However, this type of insight-oriented talk therapy, when it just keeps going and going and going and nothing else ever happens, it can become a very serious, dead end for people. I mean, okay, so picture this, and maybe you've had this experience. You are paying, out of pocket, potentially $200 a week in therapy, faithfully showing up every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. And every week you are unpacking your childhood, talking about these historical life experiences, how you feel about your father, exploring your feelings. And through this, yes, you are gaining interesting insights about why you are the way you are. You are connecting dots. 6 months pass, and now you can very articulately explain your attachment style. You can name your patterns, but your actual life has not changed. You're still procrastinating. You're still fighting with your partner about the same things and still kind of feeling stuck in areas of your life. And this can be the therapy trap. It's all insight. It's no action. And I will also say it is not attached to a diagnosis. It is not medically necessary treatment for anything. And I tell you what, this is also going to upset some people. I'm going to say it anyway. If you have a therapist who is billing insurance for this, they are committing insurance fraud. Yeah. Personal growth, gaining insight, self-development, none of this is medically necessary treatment. And so in order for a therapist to bill insurance on your behalf, they are submitting insurance claim forms that say that you have a diagnosis and that their sessions with you are for the purpose of treating that diagnosis. Your symptom reduction is the goal, and there might actually be somebody on the other side at the insurance company getting information from your therapist to confirm that they are actually doing treatment, checking in on your air quote symptoms. And this, you guys, is incredibly important if you are seeking to use insurance, health insurance, for couples counseling or marriage counseling. Because I would wager to say 95% of the people who show up seeking marriage counseling are not here for the purpose of medically necessary treatment for the identified patient's symptom reduction, which is what your couples counselor is telling the insurance company that you're doing. No, that's not why you're here. You are showing up because you would like to improve your communication. You would like to increase emotional intimacy in your relationship. You would like to get on the same page with regards to your teamwork, your finances, parenting. Like, you guys, these are solvable problems. These are growth opportunities. This is in the realm of personal and relational development. This is not medically necessary treatment. But if your couples counselor is misrepresenting your work as being that to a health insurance company for the purpose of, helping you use your insurance benefits, this is deeply problematic from an ethical point of view. It is also problematic because one of you, either you or your partner, is being assigned a diagnosis in order to get said air quote treatment. And then thirdly, because your therapist is on the hook to provide that treatment, like their case notes need to line up with what they're telling the insurance company they're actually doing, which is, we are here to treat John's adjustment disorder with depressive symptoms, which, you and your husband may have absolutely no idea that that's actually, we thought we were talking about, how to get on the same page with our finances. So big disconnect. But that therapist, because they need to actually be doing symptom reduction, they are going to be in subtle ways focusing on the partner that is the identified patient. And as a marriage and family therapist, I can tell you that will very quickly and reliably sabotage the work that you came here to do. Because when it comes to systemic work, it is actually not all one person's problem. Both people are contributing to the system. We need to get some things sorted out. Now, in the event, there are times that one person does actually have a mental health condition, and family therapy can be a quite effective treatment modality to resolve that. And so that is actually well established. And if you or your partner does have an anxiety disorder, major depression, a substance use disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, to handle that in family therapy is quite appropriate. And you should consider doing that. It's a very powerful modality. But again, most people showing up in my office anyway, wanting couples counseling, that's not what it is. And so again, there's like these two different things that are going on in the field. And this is super duper problematic because it blurs boundaries, and it also gets people stuck because most therapists are trained in this medical model that is designed to treat psychopathology. And that this is true for me too. My education prepared me to diagnose what is wrong and then to fix it, or to engage in insight-oriented talk therapy where we are linking the past to the present, exploring feelings, expanding self-awareness, and that's all great, but then what? So what I have come to learn is that we need to have more clarity in the field about what's really happening. And I think that we need to have better modalities to help you depending on what it is that you need. If you need clinical mental health treatment, do that. That's great. If you are experiencing grief and loss, that insight-oriented, gentle talk therapy approach is going to be super helpful for you. But if you are coming into therapy with the hope of solving a problem or creating actual change in your life, the brutal truth is that most therapists do not have training on how to do that. And they will just talk with you week after week. And yes, it is gratifying to come and download everything to your therapist and tell them, how mad you are at your sister and for 45 minutes and okay, bye, see you next week. Like, that's cool. And sadly, I hate this, but a lot of therapists, particularly therapists in private practice who are self-pay, maybe you're not billing insurance for this, which is good. I mean, that's more ethical, certainly. But therapists who are doing this will often do this for a really long time, like indefinitely, which is an issue because the Code of Ethics for Therapists explicitly warns against creating dependent relationships with our clients. And so I am a clinical supervisor, meaning that I help train and shape therapists who are coming into the field. And so with my trainees, I am always challenging them to broach conversations with their clients around, do we still need to be doing this? Are you still benefiting from this? What are we working on? And making sure that there is a clear purpose to these conversations. But I think that too many therapists don't do that. They will just supportively nod and, wow, how do you feel about that? Week after week, while your credit card gets charged and your life stays exactly the same. And I don't know about you, but that makes me really angry. And also the other thing here is that there are many people for whom this approach just does not work. I will say, I think that there are some people who enjoy this type of introspection and who benefit from it, and who, just on the path of general, becoming a more mature, self-aware person. It can be kind of cool to do that. But I think, particularly for many, I hate to attach this to gender roles because I think some women feel this way too, but some men really do not benefit from this approach at all. And I will say too that there are women with certain personality types that tend to be more direct, more pragmatic, who are also like, why are we still talking about this? And so what we have in this field, because of the reasons that I've described, I think is a emerging and growing trend, an energy that is moving towards coaching. And now coaches are everywhere. They are on social media. They are on podcasts. Mel Robbins is taking over the world. I let them, all the things. And I think that part of the reason why this is resonating with so many people is because I think it feels more direct, more clear, more like what people really want. Like, yeah, let's do something about this. But there's more to this story too. And over in this direction, we have a new problem, because coaching as a field is the Wild West. I mean, credentials are entirely optional and results are not guaranteed. But, a lot of people are going in this direction, and understandably so, because the, thing I was just talking about with how I think fed up people are starting to get with some insight-oriented talk therapy that is really not the right vehicle for creating change for them, is like, I don't want to do this anymore, so I'm going to look for something different. And maybe this is true for you. Like, you got fed up with therapy. You thought coaching might be the answer. Liked what people had to say, and they're in your face, they're in your ear, they're on your phone. And this is smart thinking in theory, and it's smart because coaching is supposed to be, and actually it is. I mean, just as an aside here, what almost zero therapists know, and also zero people calling themselves coaches know, is that there is a thing called evidence-based coaching psychology that has been in existence for a very long time. There's a lot of research around it. There are coaching models that are highly effective. There are theories of change. There is a coaching process. There's coaching interventions and techniques. And it is a structured process for taking a non-clinical client, meaning somebody without, psychiatric diagnosis. Like, they're not here seeking treatment. This is simply a human who wants to develop themselves and grow into the kind of person who can achieve a performance goals, whether it's at work or relationships or academically. I mean, so many different areas, improve their health. I mean, right? So this is what coaching is for. And there are well-established systems of operating as a coach and providing very high quality coaching services. And so this is what it should be. And when we're talking about this type of coaching, It is action oriented. It is focused on your future rather than your past. It is driven by tangible outcomes. And I will also say it goes quite deep. You can absolutely talk about your history, your feelings, your patterns. You can generate insight and self-awareness through this type of coaching. Like it is the real deal, and it is quite transformational. So all this sounds perfect, right? You're like, yes, sign me up for that. I want to do that. But the catastrophic problem here that is just absolutely crazy making is that literally anyone can call themselves a coach. It is a totally unregulated profession. There are no laws around coaching. There are no required credentials to coach, no accountability at all. And so it's like, I am not being hyperbolic here. And I'll just say very explicitly, your neighbor's 19-year-old kid with all the acne who plays Fortnite all day, who can't keep his plants alive, could legally charge you $300 an hour to be your life coach tomorrow. There's nothing stopping him. Doesn't need to pass an exam. Doesn't need to register anyone. I am not exaggerating. So there are coaching certification programs out there. None of them are legally required. And similarly, there's zero regulation legally around who's creating a coach training program. That same neighbor's weird aspie kid can also develop a coach training program. Like, it's completely fine. Somebody could watch a few YouTube videos, create an Instagram account, put out some inspirational quotes about, manifesting the life you want, and start taking clients. So this is a problem, and I will tell you, I become beyond enraged when I see people representing themselves as, air quote, trauma coaches or substance use coaches, alcohol recovery coaches, mental health coaches. It's like crazy. And you also see big businesses. So big megacorps, including some health insurance companies, interestingly, who are seeking to contract with people they are calling mental health coaches and deploying them to work with people in the capacity that therapists have worked with them historically. So it is creating a ton of confusion for, I think, the general public, the culture around so what the hell is coaching anyway? What is it for? And the fact that there's literally no training required. And so it is insane. And I will say, are there some amazing coaches out there? Absolutely. Some of these people have invested tens of thousands of dollars in rigorous training programs, supervision. There are primarily two highly respected coach credentialing organizations. One is called ICF. This is the largest and most well-known. The ICF takes civilians and puts them through coach training programs. So they're still lay people. They are not mental health providers, but they have obtained an ICF coaching credential. But there's another coaching credential that almost no one knows about, fascinatingly, because this is the real one. And this one is the BCC credential, Board Certified Coaching Credential, through an organization called the Center for Credentialing and Education, which is affiliated with the National Board for Certified Counselors. And this organization is responsible for preparing licensed therapists or pre-licensed therapists to complete state licensing exams to become therapists. This organization manages continuing education programs for therapists, and a number of credentials for therapists, including telehealth, to become an approved clinical supervisor, but also to become a board-certified coach. as a therapist. And as you can imagine, this type of accredited credential is the real deal. It requires, at least 30 hours of training for a licensed therapist to become a coach. You have to have supervised experience hours. You have to pass a national exam. You need to do continuing education in order to maintain this credential. It is a quite legitimate and robust credential. So board certified coach, BCC. But most therapists have no idea that this exists, and most coaches that you want to work with don't even have any credentials at all. And so this is such a huge problem, because what is happening to consumers, to you, is that it is becoming very difficult to figure out who you should be working with and what kind of outcomes you will get when working with different types of providers who have different types of qualifications and different types of skills and abilities. So right now in this whole landscape, we have air quote coaches who are peddling little more than expensive cheerleading and toxic positivity and vague advice that maybe they themselves have never actually implemented. And you also have therapists, highly skilled, legitimate therapists who have not been trained in evidence-based coaching psychology either. They think that that's bullshit. They're like, why should I become a coach? I'm a therapist, not realizing that they do not have the skills and abilities that they really need in order to be able to help somebody who doesn't have a clinical mental health diagnosis, not just gain self-awareness, but then translate that into the type of action and skill building and growth process that will lead to different outcomes in their lives. Therapists are not specialists in that, and they don't even know that. So I've been fighting with all kinds of people on LinkedIn lately about this. Therapists get very defensive when I say things like this to them, and coaches get very upset when I suggest that maybe they need to back up and at least consider getting an ICF credential. So you may be having feelings about what I'm saying here as well. But I think what the big takeaway here needs to be is that it's important to think about, what do you want to get out of this? What do I need? And make sure that you are connecting with the right type of provider to help you with this. Because when you look at the research on what actually helps people create meaningful change in their lives, oftentimes it's not traditional insight-oriented talk therapy. And I don't even know what happens with the little TikTok coaches when they start talking to somebody on Zoom. So there is, though, evidence that getting involved in evidence-based coaching can really help you move forward, particularly, and this is my favorite, when you do this with a highly competent, highly skilled, licensed therapist who really knows what they're doing in terms of mental health treatment and the principles of psychology and human development and family systems and all of these things, who also has learned evidence-based coaching psychology and who is able to deploy this modality when they meet with a client maybe like you, who doesn't need mental health treatment, who does not need to spend 3 years unpacking and unpacking and unpacking, but it's like, hi, I would like this thing in my life to be better. Can you help me? Now that therapist can say, yes, I can, and actually be a trustworthy partner in your growth, and you deserve that. So think about what you want. Think about, do I have a diagnosis? If so, I need to look for a clinical licensed psychologist that specializes specifically in the treatment of that disorder. Am I in a situation where I'm experiencing a deep loss and I just need a safe place to talk about this for a while? Yes, get into talk therapy. Grief counseling actually is what you're looking for. But if it's that you're trying to figure yourself out and would like some aspect of your life to be better, consider getting involved in evidence-based coaching that is delivered by a licensed therapist. This will give you clarity on what matters to you. It will help you identify the psychological patterns that are part of the problem. And it will help you build concrete skills that will allow you to start doing things differently and create shifts in your relationship and daily life. So you will get insight, but then it is what to do with this insight in order to have things be different in the future. And the other thing about coaching is that it establishes personal responsibility for you, and it also establishes accountability systems to make sure that you're not just talking about things, you are going out into the world and executing on them. And then we're also measuring your progress so that you know exactly what is working and what isn't working. And this is going to feel different for you if you've been in talk therapy for a while or before. I mean, like what I'd say to my coaching clients, literally verbatim, is, you know, that talking to me about this isn't going to make it different for you, right? Like we need to make a plan. We need to talk about what you need to do with what we're talking about outside of our sessions in order for this to be different in your life. So if that's the kind of energy that you need to find a therapist who is a board certified coach. And so I do have a new solution for you. So at my practice, Growing Self, this is a big part of what we do. So I myself am a board certified coach. I did this probably 10 plus years ago because I realized that in my practice, people were coming to me for help with things that I did not get training on as a psychologist. So like moving past heartbreak, like how to rebuild a life after losing a relationship or going through a divorce, how to improve a relationship with, where there's not psychopathology, is people wanting to improve their relationship, getting on the same page about money, like that kind of thing, or wanting to figure out their career, or generally just develop themselves. I mean, personal growth. And again, as a clinical psychologist, that is not what we were trained to do. So I wound up going back to school to become a board certified coach, and it was remarkable. I mean, just amazing. And even to this day, when I take new clients who have been in therapy sometimes for years, like years and years, start using a coaching modality, they are having breakthroughs in short order. I mean, not like snap your fingers. There's still a growth process, but weeks, not years. And people who wasted thousands of dollars on ineffective therapy or, messing around with some like multi-level marketing coaching thing are certainly like, oh, this is different. And they finally see the results they've been looking for. And so I hear that in my practice over and over. And so just a little history here. So because this was so important to me, and as my practice grew and I began, having therapists wanting to partner up with me and work with Growing Self, they were coming from this medical model orientation or this insight-oriented talk therapy orientation, and neither of them really fit at Growing Self because we operate differently. And so I began doing a lot of internal trainings on coaching psychology to help people, clinicians, therapists, understand how to use coaching modalities, but also how to use them effectively with different presenting issues. So divorce recovery, relationships, dating coaching, career coaching, all of these different things. And it's been amazing. And I spent many years developing a program that actually is for the purpose of now training therapists outside of my practice to become board certified coaches through the CCE. And this is a robust program exclusively for licensed therapists. Only licensed therapists can take this program. And there are many parts. There's certainly education, there's classes, there's, exam prep, all of this. But one of the things that we're doing through my practice is an internship for therapists who are in the process of going through my program and who are learning how to coach very well, I should add. So this is best of the best, evidence-based coaching psychology conducted by therapists, and it is the real deal. And as part of this, I now have opportunities for clients, maybe like you, to come into Growing Self and get connected with one of my interns. Again, a licensed therapist to do coaching with you at a fraction of the cost that it would be to work with one of these amazing people, once they are graduated and hatched and have their credentials and are off in private practice, they are going to be charging many, many, many times of what you could expect to pay if you'd like to participate in our internship program. So I just wanted to mention this to you because this is a new resource that I am so excited about. Everybody wins in this situation. We are changing the world by helping therapists become better prepared to meet the needs of people like you who aren't seeking treatment, who are simply here to grow and develop. They are learning how to be a more effective growth partner for you and meet your needs, and also do it in a way that is completely unlike anything that an unqualified coach with no credentials who is not a therapist could ever deliver. I mean, no shade on Mel Robbins and Jay Shetty. I'm sure they're incredibly inspiring. And, if you have a chance to work with one of them one-on-one, fine, go check that out, see what you can do. However, working with a licensed therapist who coaches will also, therapists know how to go deep. We go all the way in to connect dots, unpeel onions, understand those old patterns. And also the benefit of working with a licensed therapist in a coaching capacity is that if you believe that you are here for growth and development, and you actually do have a mental health condition that has not perhaps been identified or named previously, a good therapist will do an assessment and be able to say, I would love to work with you as a coach, and you have an untreated anxiety disorder. Until that is managed, you are not going to make progress in coaching. And so I would like to refer you to a short, effective course of treatment, clinical mental health treatment, evidence-based, with a provider who specializes in exactly this, who is not going to waste your time. And once this is well managed, come back into coaching. And then let's talk about your career. It will be much more effective when you do that. So that's another thing that therapists can do for you that, Wild West coach wouldn't, they don't even know what they don't know about that. So lots of cool opportunities here. And if you're interested in this, get in touch with me. Come to growingself.com. You can shoot us an email, hello@growingself.com, or you can just get in touch, submit our inquiry form, let us know what type of service you're interested in, and just mention the fact that you've heard about this program on this podcast and that you're interested in being connected with one of our therapist coaching interns, and we can help get you connected with one of them to do some potentially really amazing and productive and effective work. So, all right. Woo! We talked about a lot today. I'll be interested to hear your reactions. Get in touch with me on Instagram. We can discuss. If you're a clinician who's having feelings about any of this, or who is interested in my BCC coaching certification program for therapists, get in touch. You can email me at Growing Self too, or connect with me on LinkedIn. And we'll go from there. But in the meantime, you guys, thanks so much for spending this time with me today. I am glad that we have the kind of relationship where we can be honest and talk about important things. And I sincerely hope, above all else, that this conversation today gave you clarity and direction about what type of approach you want and need and deserve, as well as some clarity on how to find it. Thanks, you guys, and I'll talk to you next time.